Knowledge is power. Hello, 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 and welcome. My name is Sabrina Victoria. Thank you so much for being here. This is her talk show. I have Mendy on the line here. We are going to be talking about how knowledge is power. So I want you to get comfortable. We're going to explore the triumphs and the challenges faced by women worldwide. Mendy is here to offer some insights and some inspiration to fuel not only your professional growth, but also your personal growth. Let's jump right in.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
Listening live, welcome. And if you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can share you some love in the comments with you. We're here every day. We delve deep into the realm of health, wealth, and leadership with some of the most brilliant women globally. We've interviewed over 600 women, and today we are adding another one to the list. We have Mendy. She is the founder of HDC Academy, a 12-module program that educates entrepreneurs how to set up companies through practical lessons and zero fluff. This academy gives you the tools to set up your business right and actually make it work. Emphasis on make it work. She also provides bookkeeping services to help entrepreneurs stay organized, focused, and financially in control as they grow. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely are seeing an area that women need. Girl, I always talk about how I network with women every single day, all day. That's all I do is just I'm on the phone with women all day, every day. And I think the number one thing is they leave corporate and they have these big dreams of just like all this awesomeness. And all they have to do is just open a website, and then just like $10,000 is just going to like rain down on them every single month. They're just waiting for the money. They feel it, right? There's a lot of feeling it. And you're just cutting to the chase. You're like, dude, we got to make the business work.
Yes. I mean, and that's something, right. Because I opened the business 5 years ago. And yeah, my background was operations and leadership and management and policy and procedures. And I opened small business. I was like, I've got this, right? And you're like, oh, holy crap, I don't have this. Like,
Totally.
It's just so different. Like, just the dynamic is different, and what it is fundamental is different. And that's what I teach people. 15%. And I tell people that all the time. 15% is the passion of why you started the company. 15%. The other 85 is every other piece it takes to actually build and grow a sustainable business. And that's the piece that nobody talks about, right? It's, I want to go do this. And then you get in it and you don't even understand all the pieces required to actually make it work.
Absolutely.
So it's a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I first met Mendy and we were kind of going over some of this stuff, one of the first things that I thought of was like, I'm so far into my business. I've learned so much, but I know that there's still parts of my business that are totally effed up, that are just like not even aligned at all. I think one of my favorite podcasts was when I was listening to Alex Hormozy. For those of you that follow him, I'm a huge fan of him and his wife. And he was talking about how I think he became a multimillionaire at the age of like 20 something. He's like millions of dollars was coming into my account, and I had no system set up. I had no banking, like I had nothing set up. And I think sometimes we have this like thought process of like soon, or it'll just happen magically, or, whatever it is. And we don't recognize that, like, if we don't sit down, like I always say, like, if you're not micromanaging your business, who's micromanaging it?
Yeah. And I say it almost every single day, you're responsible. At the end of the day, you are the one responsible. And unfortunately, we do have to wear all the hats, right? And there are going to be things, strengths and weaknesses. And I tell people that every day, you have to figure out what you're really good at and what you want to do and what you're passionate about. And at that point, you have to let it go, and you have to outsource it. And that can be anything. That can be anything from a virtual assistant to bookkeeping to social media to creating content. I mean, so this business does not work unless you are really willing to invest the time on what you're good at and spend the time. And I say that a lot. Our job, right, as a business owner, and this was something I didn't understand either. My job as a business owner is to build the business, right? To grow the business, which requires networking and getting in front of people and closing deals. That's my job as a business owner. My job as a business owner is not all those 9,000 other pieces that have to get done.
Yeah.
So at some point, we really have to get down to it of what we really need to be doing as a business owner versus not.
Absolutely. So I know you talk and lean a lot on knowledge and how
Yes.
important knowledge is when it comes to business. I'd love for you to maybe just tell the story around that. Like, what was your epiphany when you really sat down and realized, maybe for yourself or maybe for your clients of like, dude,
Mhm.
there is a lack of knowledge.
Yes.
There
Yeah,
is a lack of power.
absolutely. And I started the company 5 years ago, and again, I had a solid background. I mean, I knew exactly what I needed to do in specific areas of the business. And then when I started the company, I was doing a lot of virtual assistant services. So I was building back offices for customers, handling, just standard operating procedures, writing contracts, talking about insurance, trying to explain to people the difference of why we don't commingle bank accounts, just stuff that for me was very fundamental, right? And but they didn't know. And I've at this point I've worked with over 100 companies, and every single time I sit down and talk to a new business owner, I find things that they did not know. And again, none of us knew. Like we all started, we didn't know what we didn't know. We're DIYing and Googling our business, and we're trying to do the best we can, right, to make it work. But consistently, none of us have set it up right. And as I year after year after year, I was like, I'm done with this. Like there needs to be something that's going to do this. There needs to be something that is going to sit down and go, this is what I want you to do when you build your foundation. So, are we doing an LLC or an S corporation? How are we handling our bank accounts? How are we handling insurance? I mean, and so that's why I built out the program I did. Was like, I want to help more people because and again, you need to understand the fundamentals of what you do in your business and why it's important and why it matters. But again, that doesn't mean that needs to be something that you are handling yourself in the day to day, right? So when I say knowledge is power, that's really the position I'm coming from. Is you need to understand it because it's your responsibility to understand it, right? Um, but that doesn't mean that that's what we need to be doing as the business owner.
Mm. Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
So when you talk about this 12 module program that
Mhm.
is going to educate entrepreneurs on how to set up, um, what are the first couple steps? I mean, where are we supposed to start? This is how it goes. We're in corporate, right?
Right.
We're like, F this bullshit. I
Mhm.
hate this. I hate everything about this.
Yes.
And then they quit.
Mm.
That's it. They just like quit. Maybe they have a few weeks of savings or
Mhm.
a few months of savings.
Mhm.
Um, and they're just like, I'm going to go all in. Like what you said, the 18%, they're just like so excited. They go in, they open
Mhm.
up a website, they're all excited.
Mhm.
And then that's what I'm seeing. It's just like
Mhm.
they open a website. And half the time it's not even an actual company yet.
Yeah. Yes. That's true.
Like I've seen that where they open up the website, they choose a name, and
Mhm.
then they can't even use the name.
Mm. Mhm. Yes.
So where should they start? To those that are listening right now and they're like, I'm F this bull crap. I want to jump. Okay, what first? What do we do?
Well, okay, so these are the first three things I tell people that they need to do. Okay,
Yeah.
so the very first thing that you need to do, yes, you need a company name, but like you just said, you can't just pick a company name. Here's my position. The very first thing I tell people to do is I want you to sit down and talk to a CPA. because my very first thing is I need to know what kind of business you want to set up. Because here's the thing, there are different business structures. So most small businesses you have, there's four more primarily. It's either a sole proprietor, a partnership, an LLC, or an S corporation. Okay. And there are different tax benefits and ramifications based on what you set up. And so I hear it all the time. And every time I hear it, people are like, just go to your Secretary of State and get an LLC. And it makes my eye twitch because I'm like, that is the worst advice I have ever heard in my entire life. That is a horrible place to start. Go talk to a CPA, sit down for 30 minutes. Most of them don't even charge you, and just tell them, this is what I want to do. This is the business I want to own. This is the name I'm thinking about. And they will talk you through it. They will say, well, based on what you're wanting to do, this is probably a better tax structure for you. Okay. The next
So,
thing,
like the difference between like an LLC, an S corp, a
right?
C, or what? Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
they'll tell you the difference, okay? And they'll based on what you're wanting to do, maybe your estimated income, they will help you decide. Now, a lot of people do an LLC because it's free of charge on your Secretary of State. An S corporation they charge for, but for me, it's depending on the person who sets it up. It can be $200 to $400. So for me, it's worth the investment because it's actually a better tax write off for small business. And so, but some people don't want to spend that money, you know? So that's my very first thing. Get in front of CPA and just ask the question. Number two, you need to go see if that name of that business is already taken on your Secretary of State. So you can go in, put in the name of the business and see if it's already taken. Because if it is, you don't want to be, right? Then you're going to get into a conflict. And I see it every single day where people have named their company after someone else, and that other company currently is in lawsuits. And so now people don't can't distinguish between the two because their business is the same name. And so now people think that they're in lawsuits.
Wow.
And so they're trying to get themselves out of this, right, this bubble. And it's just because no one knew. So, that's my second thing. And then the very third thing I tell people is you need to open a bank account with your business tax ID number. You do not want to commingle business account funds, income, expenses, and your personal. That is a big no-no when it comes to accounting. Because what happens is when you do that and you are intermingling and commingling, what you've done is you've opened yourself up for liability. So what happens is if someone sues your business, okay, but there's no clear distinction between what is actually business and what is actually personal, you then give people access to your personal, which includes your personal assets too. So it is a really big deal. So those are the very first things. That's the very foundational. Those are the first things I tell people to do.
For those watching live or on the replay, you said to contact a CPA first thing.
Mhm.
Are you a CPA? Can they
I am
contact you,
not.
or is that? Do
No,
you have individuals that they could connect with?
absolutely. Yeah, I work with a bunch of CPAs.
Do they have to
So
pick a CPA in their city, state, town? How does that work?
it's probably best to do it in their specific state. It doesn't have to be in their city. Of course, state laws are different. So stuff that I can get away with here, because I'm in Oklahoma City, stuff I can get away with in Oklahoma, probably can't get away with in Florida or Arizona or wherever. So your CPAs are going to be more, they have more knowledge about the local tax, right? The local taxes, state taxes. Like we have state taxes here. Other states don't have taxes. So my recommendation is probably to try and get someone in your local state, but depending on the size of the business, I mean, I have clients now that come to Oklahoma City CPAs because I refer them to them, but they're in a different state. So it just depends. But
Totally
yes,
get
if
that.
they wanted a referral, yes, I can give them to them. But my recommendation would be try to find someone in your state if you can.
Yeah. And then when they're choosing their name, do you recommend people to Google it? Because you were talking about the lawsuit. Like, can people just Google the name that they're looking for to see kind of what comes up when they Google it?
What I would recommend is going to your Secretary of State and searching for the business name and seeing if it's already out there. That would be my recommendation.
And then there's the state and there's the nation, right?
Yeah, the IRS. I've never, for me, it's a matter of basically one is a corporation and it's an S corporation, but one is a sole proprietor. So they're not required to file on their Secretary of State. So that's where the conflict came with, is there different tax structures. But yeah, I mean, anything that you can do in advance, Secretary of State, Google the company name, those are all good things. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I'm so thankful that I did what I did and I built the brand that I did and the logo that I did from the beginning, because it is noticeable, right? It's simple. People remember it. They know, they understand they see the logo and they're happy. All my branding is on point. And so for me, that was a really big piece. People know my logo and branding long before they ever know who I am as a person. So it's important. Your business name matters. And normally what happens is people just pick something, and then 3 years later, they're going and they're completely rebranding their entire company again. So I would tell people, invest the time, like really sit down and think about it. Make sure it's something that's going to be, very relevant, memorable, something easy to remember. Because it matters, and you don't want to have to rebrand 3, 4, 5 years down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that's one of the biggest things is people try to be clever.
Clever doesn't work. Don't be clever.
It's like, yeah, I was with, I don't know if it was on a podcast or what it was, but her company name, which is beautiful, was Soul Lutions.
Ooh.
So like, helping out with like healing or, your story. And
I love that. But
it was Solutions. Yeah, but exactly. So it was Soul, SOUL, and then another L, UTION. So like seeing it, I understood it. I was like, ooh, I get that. But to actually try to like, what's your website? Solutions. You have to spell it every time. You're gonna have to spell that.
Right. Every single time. Yeah. Just, isn't that funny though? But we don't even think about it when we first start.
Yeah.
But just stuff that simple. Like you are just putting yourself in a disaster area waiting to happen. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I always say clear over clever. It's really easy to try to get clever. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's so cute. Like I remember when I was first opening, I started out in personal development, and I was going to do Evo. It was like evolution. And then it might have even been solution. It was like evolution, maybe.
Okay.
Evolution, but it was, I don't know, but it was something weird. And somebody brought it up. They're like, dude, you're going to have to be spelling that every single freaking time.
The rest of your life.
And I was offended. I was like so offended because it was so cool. So, I don't think I do.
I love that.
But I was so offended for a really long time. But now looking back, right now that I have my companies and I've been working, I see so many other people's. I'm so grateful that somebody said that to me because, it was silly. I wound up going, which was still a little bit of a tongue twister, but obvious, was Pure Aspirations.
Okay.
Which is still a little bit of a tongue twister, but it was like the real words. Pure Aspirations. And it was the same. It was like, aspiring to be pure, same thing, like evolving as a human. But these are things that you learn when you're first.
Yeah, people they just don't know what they don't know. I mean, one of the very first things I did too that most people don't do is I heavily got involved in the community. Very first thing I did is went and got involved in my local chamber of commerce. I mean, because
how much does that cost? What did that cost you?
Oh, my local chamber, it was like $230 for the year.
Wow, that's in Oklahoma, people. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what it is, like, in
Mm-hmm.
general.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, our local chamber, but here's an example of my local chamber. It's 230. It's probably one of the cheapest ones in the state. We have a community coffee every single week, and you have at least 100 people show up. 100 small businesses show up every single week to our local chamber.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's 100 people that you can get in front of every single week. Because, I mean, right, networking. If people don't know you and they don't like you and they don't trust you, they're not going to buy from you and they're not going to refer you. And so you have to build that brand. You have to build your reputation. You have to build your brand in the community. And then once that happens, that's when your name is going to start, right? But if you're not involved, because I mean, I hear it all the time. People go, "Yeah, I don't network." Well, how are you getting your name out there? Because a website, no offense, it's not going to do it, right? You're not going to move up in Google. No one is going to find you if people don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's that is probably one of the biggest pieces. That's the very first thing I did because I got laid off in 2020 during COVID. Um, so my job, I mean, yeah, half the company got laid off, right? I mean, and so many people got laid off. And so I know a ton of business owners that started companies in that time. But I knew that if I was going to be successful, let alone during COVID, I had to get engaged. I had to get engaged with people. And so that's where I started. And I mean, at this point, I'm 5 years in, and I get to talk to you. I mean, that's what networking can do for your business. It can take you across the world. Half my clients aren't even in Oklahoma. And I love that. Every single client I get to work with is a different market and a different rules and regulations and accounting. And so, I mean, just for me, it's also a knowledge thing. Like, because I get to work with so many types of companies, it's the knowledge for me. That's why I'm able to do what I get to do. That's why I'm able to build out a platform because I can tell you right now, I don't care if you're in cosmetology or if you're cutting trees down, the basics at the end of the day are the same.
Yeah.
So if you can set it up right, where are you going to be, in a year versus having to redo your entire business in year 3, 4, or 5?
Yeah, that's usually what happens,
Mm-hmm.
is having to
And
revamp
that's
everything.
painful and expensive.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Um, I want to talk about QuickBooks for a second. I think this is one of the other things that I see a lot of. We're working on our own. We're by ourselves. Maybe we're starting to think about hiring somebody, bringing someone on.
Mhm.
Um, when should somebody start with some sort of a bookkeeping platform, like a QuickBooks or something similar?
Mhm.
Should it be from day one? Should they start with Excel? What
Mhm.
is your kind of recommendation as far as keeping track of the bills, the money, the payments?
So it was funny because I last week I actually taught a class. I taught an accounting 101 class to small business owners, and I had a woman there, and she goes, "Okay, so tell me when to hire a bookkeeper." And I said, "Do you do your books right now?" She said, "No." I said, "Do you know how much money you make?" "No." "Do you know where your money is going?" "No." It's time to hire a bookkeeper, right? So for me, that's the piece, right? Because my background is accounting. So for me, I I want people to do it automatically. I want that to be one of the very first things they hire out because 50%, almost 50% of small businesses close in the first 18 months due to poor financial cash management. So, what does it look like to hire a bookkeeper? And I mean, I had a girl at that class, same thing. And I asked her, I said, "How many transactions are you running a month currently?" Right? Because she had just started. She's under 6 months old. And I said, how many transactions? She said, maybe 25. I said, then start in QuickBooks. Start in QuickBooks, and it's a bank register. It's a little Excel. You put in your little expenses, you add your income in there. Um, but when you start making some money, and it might not even be money. So let's say the type of business you're building has a lot of assets. Let's say you're having to buy buildings and equipment and vehicles and all of that. If that's the kind of business you're running, you need to get a bookkeeper immediately, in my opinion. I mean, if you're a little service-based company, run 25 transactions in Excel. But when you start getting into that 50, 100, it's probably time because more than likely you're not managing it, right? Because it's more work than what you want to do. And bookkeeper, if you have the right bookkeeper, it doesn't cost an arm and a leg, right? I think for me, again, knowledge is power. Being able to sit down with someone every single month and say, this is how much money you brought in, this is how much you spent, right? And I can give you percentages. I mean, I've done that with clients. For every dollar you bring in, 52 cents is going out the door just in your cost of goods sold and your payroll. That your business is not going to make it with that type of money going out the door, right? So those are conversations that if you are willing to invest the money, you will be in such a better financial position than to try to manage it on your own, because most people don't, right? And then their business goes under and they don't even understand why.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all comes back to money,
Mm-hmm. Money,
know,
money,
knowing your numbers.
yeah. And money is hard. And money is vulnerable, and money is intimate and personal, business, all of it. I mean, it is an intimate subject. And so I get it. People don't want to hand that off. People don't want to sit down and have those conversations. And I mean, I do a lot of stuff with budgets. I sit down with business owners and be like, this is what your expenses are, and you're not even bringing enough money in to cover your expenses. So what do we need to do different? Do we need to increase our pricing? Right? Like, I mean, there's so many conversations that need to be had, and just unless you truly understand where you need to be, how are you ever going to scale? Because that's the question. Like, I want to get into business, and that's wonderful, but what is your goal? Do you want to be here in 5 years? Do you want to be making 500K a year? What is your goal? Because right now you don't have any information to even help you get to that goal, right? So what can you do? What kind of information and knowledge do you need to get yourself into the position where you're going to feel good about moving forward in your business?
Yeah. When you when you're having these conversations with business owners, do you find that they realize the importance of either raising their prices or making more money, or are they is that kind of like a wake up call for them? How do you?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things that I notice, it's not just monthly, but it's at that end of the year. It's those tax filings. That's the part that kills them, because they've been doing it all along, but they don't understand, if I make this much money, how much am I going to have to pay in taxes?
Yeah.
They have no. And that is another reason I say you need to understand what kind of business entity you're setting up from the beginning, because based on how you set up your company determines what you're going to pay in taxes. I am a big over communicator. So I'm one of those people. I'm like, hey, it's November 1st, you need to get with your CPA now, kind of person. Because again, at the end of the year, people have no concept how much money they're going to have to pay in. I tell people just straight up the top, if you don't want to do all that right now, 25% is what I tell people. If you make $100, I want you putting $25 into a savings account. That's what I want you to do to cover your taxes. Now, I tell people that because I don't ever want anyone to get bombarded at the end of the year with a high tax bill. But if you have someone doing it consistently every single month, you're going to notice a big difference in not only how you handle your cash flow, right? But what kind of decisions do we need to make in order to make it better for you? Are your customers slow paying you? Are you buying too much inventory? I mean, so there's so many different things, and so that's why I feel like it's important to get someone who's on your side and who can help you with those decisions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. As we're kind of wrapping up here, what are some things, or what are maybe one or two questions that a person should ask a potential bookkeeper to know whether or not they're responsible or legit or real or
One of the first things I would absolutely do is Google. Google is a big thing. I would absolutely check for reviews. I know some amazing bookkeepers, and I know some not so amazing bookkeepers. So again, I think this is a big part of networking. I think if you can find people that will help you, and people are going to refer good people, right? So I think that's the other big one. When it comes to pricing, I mean, and I know people who charge a lot more than I do, and that's fine. My niche is very specific, and I keep my prices where I do because I want to be able to service the little people that actually need the support. So I run my business. My business model is different from other people, and I completely understand that. But if people are charging you, I'd say 25% of what you're bringing in every month, you're that's way too much. I think depending on the industry, make sure that they actually understand cost of goods sold. That is a really big one. I see a lot of people paying taxes on stuff they shouldn't be. Um, every business is different. So you have service based accounting and you have product based accounting based on the client, right? So you need to find someone who specializes in that niche. So that would be my word of advice. And I always say, find a mentor, find someone that's already in your industry. Because trust me, they have probably already sat there and gone, oh, I know this bookkeeper or I know this bookkeeper. I mean, find a mentor, find someone who has done this, who can help you through this, not just the accounting, but all of it. Help you with networking and help you finding the right softwares and help you. And people are willing to pour into you. More, mentors will help you, but you have to be willing to put yourself out there enough for someone to say, for you to say, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm really struggling with this. Who can I find to help me?
yeah, absolutely. Um, I'd love for you to talk as we're kind of wrapping up here a little bit. Obviously, we're getting a really good idea of what you do, but I'd love for you to tell us who should be reaching out to you. You know, people listening to this live, people listening to this on the replay. Who you kind of touched on it, but just specifically, who do you work with? Who should be reaching out to you?
So I do a lot of different things. My biggest passion is small business. Period. So if you are a small business, I primarily service small businesses. Most of my customers are under $1 million a year. Um, so bookkeeping, definitely that. I only do service based. I don't do product based. When it comes to my online business platform, the HTC Academy, I built that program because consistently, as we talked about, stuff is just not set up correctly. And I wanted to help more people, and this is a way that I can help more people. So it's literally everything starting your business from the ground up. So foundations, we talk about insurance, contracts, time management, accounting, budgets. I mean, you name it, we cover it in that. So anyone who is starting a small business or you're under 3 years old and you just feel like you're consistently missing pieces that you didn't even realize that you needed to do, those are the kind of people I'm looking for. Those people who are tired of the frustration of trying to do it on their own, tired of having to DIY and YouTube everything did up. Those are the people I'm looking for to get in the academy.
Got it. And where can people find that? I'm on your website right now. Where do I?
Yes, so that's going to be actually a different link. We're making a few changes at the moment, but they can absolutely reach out to me. You can find Honeydew Checklist. Um, that'll get you to my website. I can absolutely get that link sent over to you. We're building out a landing page and stuff at the moment, so it's not currently live. But yes, the program is live. I just don't have it linked at the moment, but it's through ThriveCart at the moment. But yes, reach out if you have questions. Absolutely here to support anyone I can.
Awesome. So her website is honeydew-checklist.com. It is in a clickable link in the description below, wherever you're watching us at. And then if you scroll to the bottom, you can schedule a free consultation, or you can also follow her on Facebook and or Instagram, and probably reach out to her one-on-one there to get more information on that 12-step module program that we were talking about, to really help entrepreneurs set themselves up, the foundation set themselves up, and then potentially bring you on as a client. So Mendy can take care of everything else for you. All right. Well, this has been absolutely phenomenal. So appreciate you coming on, hanging out with us. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you to you. I mean, you were just a powerhouse, and I'm so thankful to have met you. And I just love everything that you're doing and how much you're pouring into the community too. And I'm just blessed to know someone like you. So thank you for having me, and excited to be here.
Love it. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here and inspiring us, right? Letting us know, sharing your wisdom with us. I know that there are so many women business owners in the same exact boat that you're speaking of, and this really gave them some good highlights and gave them a journey or a route that they can take in order to make sure that they up level, right? We were talking about knowledge is power. So getting that knowledge so that you can have that power. This brings us to an end of yet another incredible episode of Her Talk Show. Thank you, Mendy, for being here. To our dedicated listeners who are still here live, thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us. If you are watching us on the replay or here listening live, remember to follow, like, and share. Once again, my name is Sabrina Victoria. I'm the host here at Her Talk Show. I want to invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation Global, where we have conversations just like this one to make sure that you are continuously getting uplifted every step of the way in your journey, personally and professionally. As always, until next time, do something else.